Woj has done it again. He has dropped a major update on the New York Knicks and their future plans, detailing what they're going to do this season and what their plans are for next season. We also have a list of potential names that the New York Knicks could potentially go after this offseason, depending on how that star feels about their franchise. We're going to break down this massive report and so much more today. So be sure you're subscribed to the channel and have notifications turned on so you don't miss a second of the new content. And now, let's get started. Woj provides an insight into the New York Knicks and their future plans. Now, the OG Anunoby trade was shocking for so many reasons, but for one main reason. It was one of the major trades the New York Knicks have made in the last few years. That was a major move, but it wasn't the main move they needed to make. So clearly, when you have first-round picks, you have Evan Fournier still on your team, and you have all those things necessary to make another move available, you wonder what that move is going to be, because it can't just be OG Anunoby. It has to be another move following this. And thanks to Adrian Wojnarowski, we don't have to speculate anymore. He helps gives us some insight regarding what the Knicks are looking to do this season. Shout out to my guys Big Nick Energy on the app X for giving us the following information. Woj, whom is represented by CAA, says the following. The Knicks will, number one, add a player at the deadline who adds shot creation, is on a contract that his current team values but can't keep because of the luxury tax. Before we go into Woj's second point here, I just want to mention this first point regarding adding a player at the deadline for the New York Knicks. If you look around the league and you think in your mind, because you know the Knicks want to add a star level type of player, a starting caliber level player. With that in mind, and you look around the league, there is really one player that fits the bill regarding the team he's on right now. And that guy is a player I've made a lot of videos about already. In my opinion, that sounds like DeJounte Murray with the Atlanta Hawks. The Hawks have kept their books pretty clean, especially after moving away from John Collins. However, they're still looking to add more talent. And when you're looking to add more talent, what do you need? You need picks, you need players, but you also need cap space. And the Knicks can give them cap space by giving them Evan Fournier, but also if they get off of DeJounte Murray, they help free up some more room as well there too. So it all makes sense for the Hawks if they're looking to make this move with the New York Knicks. So I just wanted to point that out there. But let's continue with regards to what Woj has to say here. The second point that Woj mentions here regarding what the Knicks look to do in the future, they look to add a player in the summer who will ask out after their team underachieves in the playoffs. And of course, with the New York Knicks, they are tied to CAA. And the CAA players that could potentially ask out if their team does not do well this season are the following names. Devin Booker, Paul George, Donovan Mitchell, Karl Anthony Towns, Andrew Wiggins, and finally, finishing that list, some people's favorite player, Zion Williamson. What a massive update here from Adrian Wojnarowski. Shout out to Big Nick Energy on the app X as well too for giving us this information. This is wild, guys. Going back to the second point here, the New York Knicks are again still looking for that disgruntled star to ask out of his contract, to ask out of that franchise so that the New York Knicks can hone in and target him. And of course, you can name a lot of other players around the league, but the Knicks have a lot of ties with CAA. So if a CAA superstar asks out, you can bet your bottom dollar that the New York Knicks will be looking into that player and looking to add him to that roster. And looking at that star-studded list that we just covered again, you got Booker, George, Mitchell, Towns, Wiggins, and then Zion Williamson. If we're just going to break down this list here, we can go really quickly regarding the players that the New York Knicks should never touch right now, in my opinion. Since the Knicks have OG Anunoby, the Knicks do not have to go after Andrew Wiggins anymore. Now, I wanted Andrew Wiggins. I thought the New York Knicks could potentially go after him because, again, his value is very low right now. He's playing for a Warriors team, which a lot of players in that locker room don't want to be there. When you're playing in a toxic locker room, sometimes it's going to affect your performance. Who's to say that's not what's happening right now with Wiggins? So if the Knicks still needed a wing, or maybe they need a backup wing off the bench and Wiggins is okay playing that position, I wouldn't mind the New York Knicks going after Wiggins because, again, he is a low value add right now. And if the Knicks can add him right now for a low value and they can build his value back up, who's to say they can't flip him in the future for another asset? I'm just saying, there's opportunity around the league. You just have to be able to identify it and seize it. But yeah, absolutely, you don't want Wiggins right now because you have OG Anunoby. The next name on that list was Karl Anthony Towns. You know how I feel about Karl Anthony Towns. He gets paid like a superstar and never, ever shows up to play like a superstar. So why? Why go after him? Why would the Knicks go after him? And get this, after you add Towns, and of course, in a Towns trade, you have to move on from Randall. Randall's playing better than Towns right now. I'd rather have Randall right now over Towns. But get this, if you even did that move and did that trade, the Knicks would still be one player away from being in contention for a chip. So even if they did that move, in my opinion, it just puts them exactly where they are right now. Maybe a little bit better, but that's really it. Donovan Mitchell. You know how I feel about Donovan. I love Donovan. He's a star. He's box office. But we just did a video yesterday on this channel regarding Leon Rose and his next move. And we did it more or less with two players in mind, Donovan Mitchell and DeJounte Murray. And within that video, we basically came to the conclusion that the New York Knicks are likely going to target DeJounte Murray for this season, during this season. And if they were going to target Donovan Mitchell, they were going to do so during the offseason. And it seems like Adrian Wojnarowski definitely supports that theory because he states basically the exact same thing. And you know what? Here's another thing. If the Knicks get DeJounte Murray and it looks good and it's working, they're not going to go after Donovan. And Donovan Mitchell himself is consistently saying he's happy in Cleveland. Now, is that happiness going to lead to him signing an extension with them? That remains to be seen. But moving on here, let's go on to the next name on this list. Paul George. When healthy, Paul George is probably the best fit for this Knicks team. His scoring, his size, what he can offer in terms of another type of player for this Knicks team, right behind Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle, that type of scorer, he'd probably be third right behind those two. That would be a good lineup. The problem is, I just told you, when healthy. You don't know when Paul George is going to go down with an injury. And if he goes down with an injury at a very crucial time and the New York Knicks need him, they're not going to have him. And who knows how long he could be out for. And if he misses significant time, playoff time, then why did you even do the trade in the first place? He's a good addition, but he might want a hefty contract as well too, a hefty extension. That's why the New York Knicks ultimately didn't trade for Paul George. The reason why OG Anunoby's on this team and not Paul George is because at the last minute, according to reports, Paul George wanted an extension that the New York Knicks were not going to pay him. And because of that, he's still with the Clippers, and the Knicks went ahead and got OG Anunoby. And you know what? I don't blame him. In my opinion, it was the right move. Paul George, at this stage in his career, is injury prone. OG Anunoby is a rising star, the wing that you needed. He doesn't need the ball to be effective, and that's why he's perfect with Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle. Going back to the list here, though, the other last two names on this list, Zion Williamson and Devin Booker. For me, Devin Booker is the guy, is the one, is the player. I don't care how you feel about him. I don't care what you think about what he does with the Suns team. If he's impactful or not, don't care. The connections are there. Kentucky boy, that's there. CAA, that's there. There's so many links to him with the New York Knicks. And for a backcourt mate, could you imagine Devin Booker and Jalen Brunson together in the backcourt? That type of scoring? Lethal. Ridiculous. Crazy. I can't think of another type of team in the NBA who's going to stop that offensive firepower. You could put that offensive firepower up there with Donovan Mitchell and Jalen Brunson if those two were to share a team. That's how good it would be. That's how box office it would be. Devin Booker in New York with Jalen? Ridiculous. And it works. It absolutely works. Devin Booker still plays defense. I know a lot of people don't want to admit that, but he plays defense. He gives you size, spacing, and shooting. What do the Knicks need right now? Or at least more of? Size, spacing, and shooting. Devin Booker, if he's available, is an automatic pick up the phone, call, yes, I'll try to give you anything you want to get him on my roster. If it becomes available, if the opportunity, the chance to get Devin Booker becomes available, the Knicks have to pick up that phone and see what it would take to get him on this roster, because he definitely moves the power of the NBA from one team to another if he makes that shift and that change, going from Phoenix to the New York Knicks. That would be a game changer. And finally, last on this list, Zion Williamson. Now, if you've been following me for a while, you might know how I feel about Zion Williamson. I love his game, love his talent. He's a generational talent. We can't take that away from him. He absolutely is that. However, he is injury prone. He has injury concerns. He has health concerns. He has issues with the current team he's with. Who's to say if the New York Knicks trade for him, he won't bring those issues here? He won't have issues here. He won't have health concerns and injury concerns here. He might. He could. And that's the fear. And another thing to consider, if you're going to trade for Zion Williamson, given how Julius Randle's playing right now, if you're going to make that trade today, you're likely going to have to include Randle in that deal, a couple of picks in that deal, young players in that deal. Are the Knicks really willing to do that? And if they do that, are the Knicks better or worse? Because in my opinion, I would argue the Knicks might be worse. And if Zion goes down with an injury, which might be likely given his history, what happens? The Knicks are an even worse team now than they were before. I'm sorry. Way too much risk and little reward for trading for Zion Williamson. If you can get Zion for a steal, if you can steal him away from the Pelicans, absolutely, obviously you do it. But if you have to give up significant assets in a deal for Zion Williamson, then I am absolutely out on it. I'm not going to do it because I don't think he moves the needle as much as some other people do. Because I think a Zion-led team needs to have the proper pieces around it in order to succeed and thrive. The Knicks do not have those pieces. And if they traded for Zion, they would basically have to go out and get those pieces. It doesn't make sense. Continue to build what you have right now and add pieces that can help this roster thrive and succeed. That's what the Knicks need to do. Not go out and get a player that basically blows up this roster, and now you have to go out and basically scrap and search and find different type of players that could potentially fit with the roster you're looking to build. And that just seems like a very big gamble in my opinion. But big shout outs here going to Adrian Wojnarowski, giving us some major updates here regarding the Knicks' future plans. The Knicks can make a move now to potentially make a move later. Here's the type of things that are on the table for the New York Knicks. And shout out to Woj for helping us understand it and giving us clarity on the situation. Because it's absolutely clear, more than anything else. I know a lot of people don't believe some NBA insiders over others. They listen to one reporter over another reporter. I think we can absolutely agree here. When Adrian Wojnarowski says something, we all take it for what it's worth, and we take it to have some credibility behind it. He's given us the following updates here. So I think if we all take that into account, we can surmise the following. The Knicks are absolutely going after DeJounte Murray. Whether they land him or not, all goes into if the Hawks are going to accept their package. And the next part of that is the Knicks are going superstar hunting this offseason and looking to make a massive swing. And one of the names we just mentioned might be one of the names the Knicks goes after. That could be a monumental trade if the Knicks are able to pull off one of those names on that list. But what about you guys? What do you think about this massive report from Woj and what he reported here? Let me know in the comments below, guys, because honestly, I would love to hear from you. But that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, go ahead and smash that like button, leave a comment below, and of course, guys, please subscribe to the channel. Until next time, Knicks fans. Peace. Peace.